Welcome to the Tuning In podcast, where we talk alignment, intuition, and our internal guidance system. We cover woo-woo topics in an approachable and practical way. I'm your host, Dana Evans of Alignful.com. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Tuning In podcast. This week, episode 45 is a really special one that I've wanted to do for a while, and it's all about the difference between your inner voice and your intuition. But before we get to that, I want to remind you, if you haven't already, you got to sign up for the 4-day challenge that is going on July 27th, 28th, 29th, and 30th. It's on Instagram Live with me. And it is all about turning down the noise and turning up your inner voice. How to discover your inner voice type so that you can finally stop living a life based on others' expectations and start living a life and making decisions that are right for you. It's a huge shift that you'll discover when you hear how your inner voice is actually talking to you on an everyday basis. And once you're able to start hearing how your inner voice is communicating through you, often it's through your intuition, as we'll discuss in this week's episode, but you'll start noticing the nudges of what decisions you should be making. You see, how often have you crowdsourced a choice that you need to make? Should I break up with him or not? Should I quit this job or not? Should I order the burger or should I order the salad? What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? We spend so much time asking others for their opinions. We spend so much time and energy overthinking that we often overlook the biggest source of information that we have, which is our inner guidance system. Imagine what it would feel like to shift from constantly worrying and complaining to having tons of wonderful things to talk about because of all the decisions that you're making in your life that you love. Imagine waking up and feeling refreshed and ready to start the day at a job that you love, doing tasks and interacting with people that you enjoy. Imagine what it would feel like to even meet a soulmate, right? And be so confident in yourself that you can create a beautiful relationship with them. Well, what's missing from all of these things is your connection to yourself, your ability to actually listen to your inner voice and act from that place. Do you know yourself? Do you know what you truly want and you believe that you can have it? That's what we cover in this 5-day challenge, is really tapping into finding your inner voice so that you can ask it questions and hear the answers that will be right for you so that you can have all the things that you desire in your life. It sounds simple, and the fact is it is simple, but it's not easy. So over the 4 days of this challenge, we'll really dive into how you can start to listen for your inner voice, how you can test whether it's your inner voice or your mind, and how you can truly start to trust yourself, your inner knowing, to guide you toward what you truly want and desire in this life so that you can create a life intentionally instead of by happenstance, so that you can start living a life that feels fulfilling and satisfying to you, not a life that is fulfilling and satisfying to others. So that you can stop checking boxes that other people think you should be doing and start creating boxes that you want to fulfill, that you want to check off. And finally start feeling just satisfied and excited about your life every single day, from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to bed, because you know that you're living life for you, designed by you. That is what you'll get the first step in this challenge. And that first step, you can't do any of that until you understand what your inner voice is and how it's communicating with you, how you can hear your inner voice. What is your inner voice type? So you can turn down the noise of others, of thoughts, of the media, of everything else, and really turn up your inner voice. So sign up for that at alignful.com. alyssajoy.com/challenge. And when you do, you'll get a video from me that gives you all the steps and all the details. And then you'll get an email with exactly what you need to get started. So that's July 27th, 28th, 29th, and 30th. It will be on Instagram Live with me. If you can't join live, you have to sign up for the challenge and then you'll get the emails. And I cannot tell you how excited I am for this. I've been planning this for quite some time. Honestly, this inner voice type, it's new information and it's the missing piece. It is the missing piece for really figuring out what it is you need in life and how to move forward to get whatever you want so that you stop living for others and start living for yourself. So that's what's coming up. And I would love to see you there. Share it with your friends, anyone who you think is feeling maybe like they need something else, like something's missing in their life, right? If they've done everything right, so to speak, and they're still kind of ending up back in the same place, go ahead and share this episode with them. Send them the link, alignful.com/challenge, and invite them to do the challenge with you. You know, we're more successful when we have accountability. So get a friend to join and you guys can both follow the little homework exercises each day of the challenge and really see the changes that you seek. All right, so that's the big thing. And now let's get to this week's episode where I really break down the difference between your inner voice and your intuition and how to tell the difference. All right, welcome everybody. So this week we're talking about intuition versus inner voice. And this is a big topic because for me, intuition is pretty well recognized now. You hear people talking about it. Heck, I was on a hike the other day with my brother who is definitely not into this stuff. And he said, my intuition is telling me we need to go this way. And I'm like, okay. So it's hit all corners of the world if my brother is talking about this. And I love that. It makes me so happy to hear intuition coming up in everyday conversation because that really is this inner knowing that kind of shows up to help guide you where you need to go. But what I've noticed lately as I'm talking more and more and more about the inner voice is that people are using inner voice and intuition interchangeably, and they think it's the same thing. So I wanted to go ahead and break it down and talk about the differences between the two so that you know what you're talking about, you know what I'm talking about, and you're truly able to discover what it means to listen to your inner voice and be aware when your intuition shows up to guide you. Okay, so in the simplest form possible, it goes like this. Your inner voice and your intuition work together. Your inner voice is not your intuition. Rather, your inner voice speaks to you through your intuition. Your intuition is often that knowing that shows up whenever. It will show up and tell you something that you need to know. And if you're savvy and you're paying attention, you'll notice when your intuition shows up, whether it be a nudge or you just feel guided to do something else, or you see a sign maybe from the universe, something like that shows up, you notice it, and then you follow through on what goes on. Or you don't follow through, right? Some people say, oh, I had a gut feeling about this, but I didn't pay attention. And then the result I got wasn't beneficial to me. Or they'll say, gosh, I was driving home and I just knew I needed to turn around. And when I did, I ran into my friend who I hadn't seen in a month. And it was so magical. That's people following their intuition. And it's such a beautiful resource. It's so wonderful to be able to tap into your intuition when it shows up to guide you. Now, I would argue that the deal with intuition, at least in the way that people speak about it most of the time, is that it shows up and you don't really have a say, right? You can't call on your intuition to show up and guide you on demand. It's usually something that shows up on its own, and it hits you. It's like all of a sudden you have a knowing or you have an insight and you're like, oh my God, that's your intuition. So that is really wonderful. We all have access to that. And for a lot of people, that's almost more accessible because usually the intuition shows up if we're not checking in with ourselves regularly. So the intuition will show up pretty loud to give you a sign to guide you to make the decision that you need to make, right? To make the choice that's going to be right, that's going to serve you on this path. But there is another side of things. How cool would it be if you didn't have to wait for guidance to show up? If you didn't have to wait to be smacked in the head with the clarity that you'd been looking for this whole time? What if you had control over the insights that you get? What if you were able to call upon your intuition in any given moment and ask it to guide you and ask it for the answers that you need? And that, my friends, is where the inner voice comes in. The inner voice is truly a guidance system that you can communicate with, call upon, and ask and receive answers from in any given moment. Your inner voice is within you. It is of you. It is part of who you are. You, the essence, the observer, can choose to either listen to the mind, your mind, that is loud and demanding and constantly driving the bus, or you can choose to change the channel. You can choose to flip to the other source of knowledge and wisdom within you, your inner voice. The fact that your inner voice communicates to you through your intuition is really powerful. And if you follow the 4-day challenge that I ran, all about knowing which type your inner voice is, knowing how your inner voice communicates to you, then you'll know that it shows up on its own. And there's 5 different ways that you may sense or hear your inner voice directly. So it's constantly communicating to you. And usually we receive it as a form of an intuitive knowing, right? Oh, I just had an intuitive hit. It just hit me. I just knew. But the deeper, more powerful part of that is actually communicating with your inner voice. Is actually going inward and asking questions to your inner voice, checking in with your inner voice before you make a decision, and then listening for it to respond to you, either through words or sensations or a knowing. But you get to directly engage with your inner voice. You don't have to wait for it to show up. And that is where all of the power shifts. Because our minds tend to have a lot of power over us. But the mind is really influenced by expectations of friends and family, by media, by upbringing. There are so many factors, external factors, that influence the mind's decisions. And that's why we often end up in indecision so much, because we're trying to factor in everything in order to make a decision about ourselves. When in fact, all of the external stuff is not really the answer. The answer to everything you need to know, especially as it relates to your own life and your own choices, comes from within. But not within the mind, within that inner knowing, your inner guidance system, your inner voice of wisdom. For that is not just connected to you and what is right for you, but it is connected to a greater source of information that is beyond you, that is beyond knowing from the mind. And it truly takes you to the place of knowing with a capital K from within. So what would it look like for you to start to rely not on your mind, not on other people, not on checking a box that someone else thinks you should fill, but relying on your inner self, relying on your inner voice to actually give you the answers you need, to help you decide what you need to do next. In fact, this month for the Tuning In membership, every month we have a mantra. And this month's mantra is inner voice. What's next? And we keep asking ourselves that question day in and day out. When we're about to eat, you can ask inner voice, what do I want to eat? When you need to go to sleep, inner voice, what routine should I do before bed? Inner voice, should I go on a walk or should I stay home? Should I jump rope or should I do yoga? The mind will analyze these options, but the inner voice will just tell you what it wants you to do. The inner voice is serving you and only you, the best for you at all times. The mind is trying to factor you in to all of the other information that it has and make a decision that it thinks is right, that it thinks will make you look good, be better, improve, be worthy. But the inner voice knows you are worthy, you're complete, and all you need to do is follow its guidance, follow the joy, follow the nudges, follow the knowing that is directly, specifically curated for your thriving, for your well-being, for your highest good. And that everything will be fine and perfect when you follow that. You see, intuition is doing the same thing, but it's not on demand. Intuition is the inner voice trying to get through to you, trying to speak to you, and then we'll receive it, and that's wonderful. But I want you to take things to the next level. Instead of waiting to receive, why don't you just ask? What happens when you ask the inner voice specifically? What do I need to do right now? Instead of waiting for a sign, just ask. In fact, it brings you so much peace when you're able to connect to this on a daily basis. How many times have people told you, oh, it felt so good when I finally just knew that I had to quit the job? That's intuition. But what if before then, when you were starting to notice the inklings of not being happy in the job, what if you said, inner voice, is it time to quit? Inner voice, will you let me know when it's time to quit? Inner voice, should I quit now? Inner voice, should I change jobs? Inner voice, is there a way that this job is going to work out for me? And you have a conversation. You ask questions and receive answers. How much more freeing, how much relief would you get from actually operating from that place instead of waiting and hoping for something to come through, for the clarity to arrive? And that's what I'm here to say. Your inner voice has the answers. The clarity is already within. The noise is just the chatter of the mind and expectations and upbringing and thoughts about what is right, what makes you a good human, what makes you a bad human. All of these expectations. Trying to fit into a mold of society so that you can truly be accepted. That's the mind that's exhausting when your inner voice knows you already are. You already are perfect, and it just wants you to enjoy your life. And it wants you to make decisions that really light you up from within. Not to please others, but to please yourself. Imagine how much more joy you would bring to others if you were always making decisions that really lit you up. How good would that feel? How much more would you grow and expand and offer to others if you could come from that place? And you can. It's already within. It's already inside. It's your inner voice. When I offer one-to-one sessions, which you can always book with me, a one-to-one deep dive inner voice session, it's 2 hours, and we first kind of get a list of the topics that the mind likes to obsess about. Whatever your specific mind wants to obsess about, we'll cover. And what we do is we quiet the mind, we bring you into a receptive mode, send the mind on vacation with a cocktail sitting by the pool, and then I take you inward. I guide you to your inner voice. And guess what? It shares. Your inner voice is so happy to have the stage. It has so much to say. It's there with your mind all day long. It knows everything you think about. And it has its own perspective. So whenever we hand the mic to the inner voice, we get so many insights. We get so much clarity and peace and relief because it knows what is actually truly right for us. The mind doesn't know. The mind is trying to calculate and weigh the options and think what's the best case scenario, but the inner voice just knows. And so when you're willing to go there, to speak to it, to not wait for it to yell at you through intuition, but to actually speak to it on a regular basis, everything in your life will change. The trajectory of your life will change. The 3 pillars that I teach in the membership are stop, look, and listen. And each of those is related to you tapping into your inner voice. We got to stop the chatter, stop the thoughts, stop the overthinking, stop the worrying. Just stop the habits and patterns where we keep recreating the same life over and over. And then we need to look. Look inward. Look for the clarity, look for the signs, look for the insights that you already have. And then we need to listen. What does the inner voice have to say? What happens when we follow through on that? The mind will doubt it. The mind will judge it. But when you start to listen and truly listen and act upon what you hear, that's when everything starts to change. Without those 3 pillars, you'll be disconnected and you'll be constantly relying on your intuition to show up. And you may or may not be ready to hear it. The intuition will always be there. It's a beautiful tool for us, especially as we're learning to tap deeper into the inner voice. And what you'll find is the more you connect with your inner voice, the more present your intuition will be. And the two start to merge. And then you, as a whole, will have this ongoing narrative and knowing of what's next, what do I need, what's right for me. And you'll be able to follow that moment to moment, day to day, to really create a life that you design, that is serving your highest good, your highest joy, the most love and abundance that you could possibly have because you were willing to go inward. You were willing to have the conversation with self, to ask the questions, to listen to the answers, and to actually act upon what you hear. You're no longer relying on other people, other things to guide you, because you know that everything is here. Everything is within. Everything that you need is already here for you to receive. And all you have to do is sit and breathe and allow yourself to be and enjoy and think, has this always been me? It's true. It's true. It is always within you. We're here for you. We're here to guide. We're here to share. We have so much pride. We love you. We love you. We love you. We do. We want only the highest and the best for you. If you're willing to listen, if you're willing to play, we can show you this wisdom every single day. Do not doubt, do not fear. You don't need to look anywhere beyond here because this is where you already are. We're guiding you like the North Star. Allow it, allow it, allow it to be open to this wisdom, so that you can finally see the life that you love, the life that you want is always within. It's never not here. Breathe and allow and welcome it to be for the transformation that you see. You could never have known, you could never have known, for the mind is not here to guide and be clear. The mind is here to confuse. But we are here to show you the way, to show you the depth that is within you. So breathe and allow and open to what's more. Fear is not here. Breath is within. Allow it to flow, allow it to be, allow yourself to finally see all that is within and without can be yours. We have no doubt. That is all. So my inner voice apparently had a lot more to say about that than my mind. And there you go. That was a little, I don't know, it just took over. But I got tearful. I get tearful often when it comes through that way because you all have access to this as well. You can dip into the well and really experience that level of wisdom and knowing, and it just feels so good to still the mind, to find the peace, to finally experience a true release. It's what we all desire. It's what we all need. Yeah, there's more to this. There's more to being. And if you're willing to experience it, I first just invite you to do this challenge, alignful.com/challenge. You'll get the first indication of experiencing your inner voice, the truth that is within you, and what happens when you start to follow that and make choices and decisions and live your life for you. By your own rules. Stop living for others and pleasing others and trying to appease them. When you are willing to bet on yourself and be confident and trust in your own decisions, like, do I say yes or do I say no? Right? Should I stay or should I go? Everything will change. You're not being rude. You're not being mean to others because you're holding that highest good for yourself. And if you operate from that place, it inspires others to do the same. And if we all start to operate from that place, the world can change. So thank you so much for listening. I cannot wait to see you in the challenge. Again, alignful.com/challenge. Please join me, bring a friend, and let's see this transformation really start to unfold. And you can shift and start to shift your life and live it in a way that you are always guided. You drop the anxiety, you drop the fear, and you're willing to bet on yourself. Have a beautiful day, my friends, and until next time, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for joining me on another episode of the Tuning In podcast. As always, if this would resonate with anyone you know, please share the episode. You can follow along with my journey on Instagram at Dana_Evans, or find me on my website at alignful.com.